What's going on, everybody? This is Clint from the Die Hard MMA Podcast, brought to you by Pub Sports Radio, and this is the Total Takedown, where we are talking UFC Vegas 28, and we are going back over the card, overs and unders, folks. Over 1.5, under 1.5, over under 2.5 rounds, seeing how long we think these fights are going to last, rather than picking a side to see if we can find another angle to make some cash. Let's dive straight on into this thing. Do me a favor, smash that like button and share the video. As always, to support your boy, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. First fight of the night, lightweight fight. Claudio Puelles taking on Jordan Leavitt. And what we've got is a situation where both these guys are mainly grapplers. They've both shown some finishing ability. Leavitt is relatively athletic. We've seen him be powerful, but they both kind of suck at striking. Both these men have striking games that leave a lot to be desired. Total right now is set at 2.5 rounds. The over is plus 115, the under is minus 135. And what you see sometimes when you've got fighters who have the same skill set, they do battle in the area where neither of them are as skilled because they both perceive an edge in that area. We could be looking at a striking match here. If these guys decide to strike for 15 minutes because neither of them really want to test each other's ground games, then we really could be in for a 15-minute, I'm not going to call it a slobber knocker. It would probably be a less than technical striking match that could be relatively dull. That could get us to the over, and on top of that, I think that Leavitt has the better wrestling of the two. If he has top control on Puelles, obviously one of these guys could snatch up some kind of a submission, but both of them are high level enough. I don't necessarily see either of them getting caught from guard. I could see chokes if someone gets the back. I could see a couple of different scrambles ending with somebody getting something caught, but if Leavitt goes to his wrestling, I think he can grind on Puelles, and because of that, I see there's more than one path for us to get to that over, and I think the plus 110 is a half decent spot here. You can do the alternate total of 1.5 and go over 1.5 at minus 160. That's not a bad spot in my opinion. It's probably the one fight on this card I've got the lowest opinion of. I don't really like either of these guys. I don't like either of their styles, and I'm not really comfortable with either of them, so this is definitely not one that I plan on betting. But if I had to take a pick, which of course that's exactly what this show is all about, I'd be looking at the over 2.5 at plus 115. Second fight up, we got Sean Woodson taking on Youssef Zalal. We've got a total here set at 2.5 rounds. Over 2.5 is minus 240. The under 2.5 is plus 200. This is a spot where it's a featherweight fight. Featherweights tend to go over. Not all of them have killer ability, especially a guy like Youssef Zalal is a decision machine. He's looked for submissions in the past. He's been that close to getting them several times, but he just can't quite get it done. We expect him to go full 15. Sean Woodson on the flip side of this thing, he's got some pop on his punches, but he's more of a volume striker. And with a guy like Zalal who's going to stay on the outside, who's going to move, who's not going to stay put in one spot, he's probably going to have a hard time landing a kill shot. Maybe he can get him with some volume. Maybe he can be more active and get the judges looking his way. But I don't know that he's going to get that one combo off that lands with a bomb and puts a guy like Zalal down. Because of the way these two guys fight, the stylistic matchup, I kind of expect this thing to go over. The only way it's really going under is if Woodson catches Zalal, which no one's been able to do to this point, or if Zalal manages to get Woodson to the ground and he gets some kind of a submission. Now, we don't know a whole lot about Woodson's game. We expect Youssef Zalal to have a significant grappling advantage, so if you think this fight is going under, it's probably a better spot to take your fighter inside the distance rather than looking for an under. Now, plus 200 is a half-decent number. Technically, both these guys have the opportunity to finish the fight, but we've seen them both be tough and durable and be able to drag these fights late, so I wouldn't want to play with fire. Not what I'm planning on touching from a betting perspective, but the over 2.5, even though it's chalky at minus 240, is really the only way I could look on this particular fight. There's some value to be had, I'll say, on Youssef Zalal by submission. I'm not the only one in the sports betting community that thinks that for these fights, but that's kind of the only spot that's really jumping out. Flyweight fight, Manon Fiorot taking on Mayra Moroz. Moroz has pulled from this fight. We have a short notice replacement, a very, very low experienced fighter who's taking a big step up in competition. Manon Fiorot is now a minus 500 favorite over Tabitha Ricci for this fight. Obviously, there is no total out. Now, with women's MMA, we would expect the total to be in that 2.5 ballpark, but because she is taking such a gigantic step up in competition, and everybody, myself included, is so high on Fiorot, I think that there is the opportunity for her to land some kind of a TKO, a knockout. You're getting a short notice replacement, somebody who has no experience at this level. In fact, nobody on Ricci's record has a winning record themselves. She only beats people who have terrible, awful losing records. I don't think she's ready for this jump yet. So I'm kind of expecting Fjord to get this thing done by knockout or TKO. So we might have an opportunity at an under, at a under 2.5 if we can get a plus price or something like that. But again, I probably would be more inclined to just take the side that we like inside the distance on that one. Next up, we got a lightweight fight. Alan Patrick taking on Mason Jones. And this is an interesting one from a totals perspective, in my opinion. 2.5 rounds. We've got minus 125 to the over, plus 105 to the under. And we've got Mason Jones, who really wears people out. We talked about this on the podcast. Alan Patrick is a grappler. That's all this guy does. He sells out for the takedown. He dives in on your legs. He's got to get you to the floor, and he's not overly dangerous once he gets you there. Mason Jones is a guy with a great get-up game, so even if his butt does hit the mat, he stands back up, and he makes you pay for that takedown. That's exhausting. That will wear out the person driving for those takedowns. So we've got a spot where I need both my fighters to really be contributing to these unders. That's the criteria that I set forth that I like to look for when I've got an under spot, a violence bet that I like to make, and I don't have that there. Alan Patrick is not finishing Mason Jones. It's just not going to happen. Can I see Mason Jones finishing Alan Patrick? Absolutely. And just like the last couple fights on this one, I know I said that we're not picking sides on this show, but with these fights, it's really night and day as far as who can finish and who can't for these first couple of matchups here. And Mason Jones is the only guy in this fight I see getting any kind of a finish. If Alan Patrick slows down, he is older, he's getting close to that 40-year-old benchmark. Jones is going to take advantage of that. He'll put it on him, he'll hurt him. So I expect Mason Jones to get some kind of a TKO finish, maybe a late one once Alan Patrick runs out of gas, late second round, early third round. I'd be looking at the under 2.5, but again, I'm not getting both guys contributing to that unless you count durability issues, age issues, and gas tank issues from Alan Patrick's side of things for him to be contributing. Sometimes we do throw that in there to get the excuse to make a bet, but I would be more than looking at Mason Jones inside the distance rather than taking the under 2.5. Keep that extra 2.5 minutes in your back pocket and eliminate Alan Patrick from the entire equation. Next up, we got a featherweight fight. Makwan Murakami taking on Kamula Kirk. Kirk is a UFC newcomer. We don't know a ton about him. And another one that we really don't have a total on out there. Kirk is filling in on short notice, and the bookies haven't given us much of an opportunity here. Murakami, we know, is a guy with a very slick ground game. His boxing is decent. It's coming along. He's working on his strength and conditioning. Kirk comes out of Fight Ready, my favorite camp, and he's got a sick jiu-jitsu game himself. He looks like he's got some decent striking, some decent explosiveness. So both of these guys can finish. Both these guys have excellent submissions. And Kirk coming in here on short notice, coming from Fight Ready, I would expect him to be in good shape. I would expect him to be ready to go and not have the usual gas tank problems that you see on short notice fill-ins, but you never know. We don't know what this guy looks like until we see him on the scales on Friday. So this is a spot where I might be looking at the under, but I can also see Makwan Murakami having a wrestling edge and just kind of grinding off this fight. Also, if these guys, again, both grapplers, both submission guys, they might box. If they decide they want to contend this fight on the feet, they're both tough. They both know how to dig deep. They both know how to strike. Makwan Murakami didn't look bad against Edson Barboza the last time out. He's not going to go down to Kirk striking if he was able to make it deep with Edson Barboza. So we very much could be looking at an over. I would expect this one to be a 2.5. Probably juiced ever so slightly to the over. You might get some plus money on a violence bet, but it's not one I'm interested in playing. There's a lot of questions surrounding Makwan. There's a lot of questions surrounding Kirk. I'm passing on this one. Not going to be touching that one from a betting perspective. And I guess lean over. Next up, we've got Francisco Trinaldo taking on Muslim Saliakov. Welterweight fight. Trinaldo moving up a weight class. We talked about that on the Monday podcast as well. Saliakov, the king of Kung Fu. This is a big power striker, but he's a guy that throws one at a time. He throws one shot at a time, big spinning motions, wheel kicks, stuff like that, big power bombs. He kind of has the same thing going on the Trinaldo side of things. He's another guy that can uncork one big shot at a time, doesn't really throw in combos, but we don't know anything about him at 170. I don't know if his style is going to change that drastically. Maybe the weight cut got to him. He might have more gas in the tank. Maybe he has a little more output. Maybe he goes to the wrestling more often because he's got more gas in the tank. There's a lot of questions about this one as well. I would definitely be looking to the over. We don't have a total here, but we do have the fight does or doesn't go the decision. fight does go to decision is minus 175. It's juiced to the over, and I agree with that. I absolutely think that these guys are going to be so low volume. Both these guys are so tough, so durable. They're not going to go down easy. I think Muslim Saliakov probably stands the best chance of winning this fight by knockout, being the more natural, bigger fighter, the 170 fighter with experience there. Trinaldo being an older fighter, probably getting towards the twilight of his career, moving up a weight class. That's always a red flag for me, but I don't expect him to move up to 170 and suddenly be a world breaker and take out a guy like Muslim Saliakov. So I'm kind of seeing a 15-minute decision, relatively low volume, maybe some grappling up against the cage, but a lot of dead time where they stare each other down and kind of look in the mirror as they're taking each other on here. Looking to the over. Heavyweight fight, Tanner Boser taking on Ilir Latifi. And what we've got is a pure wrestler in Latifi who doesn't have much besides an overhand right and a volume striker in Tanner Boser. I don't know if volume striker is really the right way to call it, but he's decently active. He used to be more active. He needs to have a bit more of a sense of urgency in this fight. It's kind of what let that last fight with his previous opponent slip away from him. He does well with the leg kicks, and that's something we could see him go to here. The only problem is if you get on one leg, it makes you easier to take down. With the way Latifi fights, you got to think this one is going long. You got to think this one is going to extend. Tanner Boser is not the biggest heavyweight, so Ilir Latifi's got a shot to take this guy down. Will Tanner be able to make him work and get back up to his feet? If he doesn't, he's in for a long night. So I'm kind of looking at the over on this one. We got a total set at 2.5. Minus 140 is the over 2.5. Plus 120 is the under 2.5. If Tanner Boser wins this fight, he probably keeps Latifi on the outside, uses the leg kicks, uses the jab, scares him off with some of the power shots that he can sit down on. But he's not a big knockout guy. He's got a couple knockouts recently over questionable competition, but he's not a big knockout guy. Latifi, I don't expect him to knock Tanner Boser out by any stretch of the imagination. If he is controlling this fight, it's going to be in the grappling realm. So I expect this thing probably to go over, and minus 140 honestly isn't a half bad price. Women's flyweight to close out the preliminary card, Montana De La Rosa taking on Ariane Lipski. Total here set at 2.5. The over is minus 250. The under is plus 210. This is a spot where I'm very interested in a potential violence bet. So Montana De La Rosa training at Team Elevation. She is working on her striking. Every time out we see her improve. She's getting better and better and better. But her core skill set is her grappling. She's an incredible wrestler, and she's mixing in some solid submission attacks while she's down there. So she has the opportunity to just destroy her opponent, grind their gas tank down, find a ground and pound TKO or some kind of a submission on the floor. Ariane Lipski is a fighter who's probably got the most power in women's flyweight, maybe not counting the champion or the top, 2 or 3 fighters. She's very young, a hot prospect, someone that we like, someone I'm looking forward to evolving a little bit and maybe betting on in the future. She moved over to ATT. Wonderful camp for her to be training at. I expect big things from her if she stays there moving forward. But what we've seen from her is an inability to stop the takedown. So Montana De La Rosa is either going to get the takedowns, get Lipski to the floor, and then I expect her to go to work. Or if she can't, she's going to be outclassed on the feet. So we've got a clash of styles here. Both women dangerous. Both women capable of being finished. And really the only concern for me is Montana De La Rosa's durability. She's taken an She has taken an absolute beating before and just kept on storming forward and stayed in the fight. She is tough as nails, so that's kind of a little bit of a negative. But Lipski absolutely could be the type of person that could put her down with a big shot if she gets there. And De La Rosa on the ground is no joke. She could find the back of Lipski. She could absolutely sink in a choke of some kind. I'm tempted on violence at plus 210. It doesn't seem like a bad spot to me if you need a spot on that fight. Main card, Tom Breese taking on Antônio Arroyo. We've got a total here set at 2.5, and it is plus 115 to the over 2.5 and minus 135 to the under 2.5. This is another spot where I kind of smell a little bit of violence. Tom Breese is a sharp boxer. He's got heavy hands. He's got a slick submission game. Jumps on guillotines anytime someone tries to get on his legs and take him down. He's got a very underrated jiu-jitsu game, but he also has a tendency to quit. He shells up when he gets into the octagon. If he is not the hammer, he has a real big problem being the nail. Antônio Arroyo, Fantastic kickboxer, fights well from the outside, heavy leg kicks, heavy body kicks. He probably is going to have a range advantage here. He's huge for the Division II. Really big guy. He also has a bit of a gas tank issue. When he gets taken down, he does not do well. He's a good jiu-jitsu player. When he's on top of his opponents, he's solid. He can ground and pound. He's good to go. But when he gets put on his back, he looks for submissions, and he just really has no hope of catching those submissions. So if Tom Breese decides to wrestle, I think Antonio Arroyo is going to have a problem. We saw him get taken down, rinsed, and repeated by Duran Win in his last fight, so I kind of expect that path to victory is there for Breese. And if Arroyo is in that exact same spot this fight, I don't think Breese is going to let him off lightly. I think Breese will be hunting for submissions and ground and pounding. He's not going to float and try and stay on top of him or take him down, let him up, take him down the way that Duran Win did. So the under 2.5 smells like a half decent spot to me, but both these guys are so untrustworthy. I don't know if I'm playing it. I'll say under 2.5 at -135 is the look on that particular fight. Next up, we got a middleweight fight. Duško Todorović taking on Gregory Rodrigues. Total here set at 1.5. The over is -120. The under 1.5 is +100 even money. And I don't think this fight's lasting very long, folks. This one absolutely could be the one-round banger of the night. And if it gets out of round 1, I could see it ending very quickly in round 2. I'm going to say violence. I'm going to say the under 1.5 here in this spot. Gregory Rodrigues is a slick striker. He's got heavy hands. He's a high-level BJJ black belt. He's dangerous on the mat and on the feet. We've also seen him get finished in the past. Duško Todorović, 10-1. This guy gets hurt in every single one of his fights, and finally someone was able to make him pay for it in his last time out against Laureano. And we have seen the fact that this guy just leads chin first every single time. So I don't expect that to have changed. He's got a very quick, short turnaround here, and so it's not like he's going to have time to change up his game plan or shore up his weaknesses. It's going to be the same guy stepping into that cage, and he's probably going to trade chin for chin and see who falls first. I absolutely see Duško Todorović having the offensive requirements to finish somebody like Rodrigues. He finishes almost everybody that he fights. And then on the flip side of that, Rodrigues is absolutely an offensive glass cannon. He is a machine. He's the kind of guy that's going to go out there, land a big bomb, and really go for it. So we've got this thing all kinds of primed up for a fun fight, and it could just be a one-round one. So I like the under 1.5 at even money, +100. Even though I usually stick to the 2.5s, that one's kind of calling me. Welterweight fight, Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Miguel Baeza. We've got the old guard and the new guard. Baeza, a contender series fighter, someone who has lots of expectations. A lot of people are looking at this kid saying he's going to be something. And then you've got Santiago Ponzinibbio, a guy that was crowned as a title contender and then fell off the map. He's had injuries. He's been plagued with those for a long time. Took several years off of, made his comeback, and now he gets flatlined his first time back in the UFC. So he's making a short turnaround off a bad knockout loss. He's not a spring chicken anymore, and he's taking on a power striker. Let's not forget that Miguel Baeza is a kid that has a wicked Brazilian jiu-jitsu game that just nobody ever sees because he likes to play the ground game. This is going to be a very violent fight, and the only reason I think that it could potentially go over is if either A, Baeza wrestles, or B, Ponzinibbio is shell-shocked, and he decides to play the outside and stick and move and never let Miguel Baeza touch him. That's going to be a really tough ask because both these guys, generally speaking, are aggressive and move forward. So I don't necessarily see Ponzinibbio taking that approach, but we've seen people coming off of knockout losses take the safe, must-win approach in their next fights before. So can't completely rule it out. But we have a total here set at 1.5, -160 to the over, +140 to the under, and I would actually be looking more at the alternate total. If you can get the 2.5, it's +105 to the over and -140 to the under. I'd be looking at the under 2.5 at -140. This one could end in the first round, but I'm kind of more feeling the second round myself. So it's going to fall right on that 1.5 round mark, which is why I'm a little sketched out about that 1.5 rounds. I like the under 2.5 for sure. If I had to pick on the 1.5, I would still take the under, but that one could get a little bit hairy on you. Next up, Roman Dolidze taking on Laureano Staropoli. We've got the Georgian warrior taking on the young gun. It looks like Staropoli moving up to middleweight for this fight, taking on Dolidze, a natural 205er that just made the move down to 185. I'll be curious to see what Dolidze looks like on the scales again. We talked about it last time. He seemed to do just fine. He got the weight cut off. He did well. But doing it again is another story. We see people that are big like that struggle after a couple of attempts every once in a while. So I'll be looking closely at Dolidze on the scales on Friday. Total here set at 2.5. Over is minus 170, under is plus 150. Both these guys have the knockout power that we're looking for. Both these guys absolutely have the finishing ability. Roman Dolidze is tough as nails, though. This guy is incredibly hard to finish, and that takes away from the fact that I feel like he could get finished from Staropoli. The thing that helps, though, is he's got a really bad gas tank. This guy goes for broke, makes some bad fight IQ decisions, and gives up bad positions, forcing him to work harder to get out of them. And we saw him struggle, get hurt, get rocked, get wobbled in his last fight, and he took that loss. It was not a good look. So here he takes on Leonardo Staropoli, and if he decides to follow the same kind of game plan, just, ask his coach what to do, look for the heel hooks, like, he can really wear himself out in this fight, because Staropoli is not an easy person to put away. If Staropoli can hang in there, drag this thing out, get into the second round, get into the third round, his volume is going to take over, and moving up a weight class, you would expect him to have some more success with his striking. You would expect him to be stronger. You would expect him to hit harder. He's a young kid. He's still filling out. If this is a premeditated move, or if it's a spot that he's been considering moving to middleweight, not necessarily just a slingshot, last second, hey, I'll accept a short notice fight type of situation, I could believe that Staropoli was maybe looking at moving up to middleweight naturally over the course of his career, because he is so young. And if that power translates up to 185, if that volume translates up to 185, he could be a problem later in this fight for Dolidze. I'm going to say under 2.5. At plus 150 is the play, because either Dolidze catches this kid with something, he outmuscles him, he outsizes him, he gets that head kick going, or he's going to break over the course of 15 minutes when Staropoli survives that first round onslaught, makes him work, and then puts the pressure on him in the second round or the third round. I think both these guys have the opportunity to finish. We can always get the referee to step in with a TKO stoppage. Violence, baby. Under 2.5 at plus 150. Co-main event, Walt Harris taking on Marcin Tybura. We've got a total set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 105. Under 2.5 is minus 125. And I apologize, the main total is actually the 1.5. Minus 170 to the over 1.5 and plus 150 to the under 1.5. This one's tricky. Heavyweight totals is really been a spot lately that we've been able to cash those over 1.5s. Everyone expects a first round knockout. It's the big boys. They come out swinging hard. They've got all the power in the world. You expect the fight to be over relatively quickly, but they actually have been taking their time. And especially the ones that have that grappling capability, they take it to the floor, they grind it out, and it squeezes over and they finish late in the second round or something like that. They cost you the under 1.5, but they still get it done before the third round. That seems to be a trend with the heavyweights. But at minus 170, I don't want to pay that juice. I really don't want to pay that juice. Everyone's talking about Walt Harris first round. Everyone's saying Walt Harris has to win this thing in the first round. He knocks everybody out in the first round. Either that or it's over. And I think that we need to look a little bit further back. His fight with Andrei Arlovsky, his fight with Alexander Volkov, he's evolving. He actually is capable of going 15 minutes. He actually can work himself through a fight. It didn't work with Volkov because Volkov is a title challenger level opponent. Marcin Tybura is nowhere near that level. Marcin Tybura is in the ballpark of some of the weaker competition that Harris has fought and put away relatively quickly. If Tybura is able to stay in this fight, if he's able to keep his wits about him, use some of the grappling, pin Harris up against the fence and slow this thing down, stay on the outside, we could see this thing squeeze over that 1.5, and we could see it get out of that first round. And I think Walt Harris is going to take a bit more of a patient approach on this fight. Because of that, I kind of see it going a little bit longer. I think round 2 is really where this fight is going to end, and I do see both guys being able to finish. Walt Harris obviously has that concussive knockout power. He can finish everybody. He's got a 100% finish, 100% knockout rate for his wins. And then Marcin Tybura, he's got the TKOs, he's got the black belt, he's got the wrestling, that if Walt Harris slows down, he's going to be able to finish later in the fight. But I don't like it in the first round. I'll be honest. I know everybody thinks Harris is first round or bust, but I don't like this fight in the first round. I think it ends in the second round. So I would be looking at that alternate total of the under 2.5 if I was going to take anything on this fight. Passing from a totals perspective, because there's a lot of wild cards in my opinion. Harris could end this thing in a matter of 5 seconds. This thing could go to decision with both these guys laying on top of each other and heaving, gasping for air. So I'm not touching this one from a totals perspective, but I'll say under 2.5 as the pick for the show. Main event time. Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Augusto Sakai. This one's going to be fun, and it's very similar to the co-main event. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is the guy that can end the fight on a second's notice. Augusto Sakai is also a fantastic striker. He's also got good, solid power, but he's more of a volume guy and generally takes longer to get those finishes taken care of. We've got a total here set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 200. Under 1.5 is plus 170. I agree with the over 1.5 in this case, but I'm not laying minus 200 on it because I'm never laying minus 200 on an over with Jairzinho in the fight. In an interview recently, he talked about needing to be first. If you look at a guy with the kind of power that he does, he likes to sit back, take it slow, look for his counter opportunity, and then uncork a bomb and then unload on his opponent. But if he's looking to be first, if he's looking to come out aggressive and slap somebody around and smash their jaws in, then that fight could be over in a matter of seconds. He could go back to those, 9-second knockouts that we've seen in the past. Augusto Sakai is a very durable man, so I don't know that it's going to be over in one single shot, but this is a 25-minute fight, so both these guys are going to have more than enough opportunity over the course of the fight to really test each other's chins. Rozenstruik is a guy that's only really been taken out by Francis Ngannou. So if you need that level of power to take him out, I don't know if Augusto Sakai is going to be able to, especially not with one shot. It's going to have to be an accumulation of damage for him to be able to get that finish. So because both guys are durable, I don't like the unders. Because both guys are powerful, I do like the unders. Because Jairzinho is involved, I do like the unders. But I'm not sure how this fight's going to play out because I've got a lot of questions about Rozenstruik at this point. I think he gets back on the horse here. I think he does his best to end this fight and not let it be a boring 25-minute fight. He's already had 2 boring main events that a lot of people have given him crap over, so I kind of expect him to come out with a bit more of a sense of urgency. So I'd be looking under. Now, again, we've got an alternate total at 2.5. Minus 110 to the over and minus 120 to the under. That's more where I'd be a little bit more comfortable looking at the under, because at least at the 2.5, you've got that whole second round and part of the third round to get it done. Jairzinho is a guy that can finish a fight late. We saw him knock out Overeem with seconds left on the clock after a 25-minute battle. So he could wait until the 4th or 5th round to land some kind of a knockout bomb, or maybe Sakai is just tough enough that he can take 2 or 3 shots before he goes down and that bomb doesn't come till late. So this is one where I'm not interested whatsoever in playing a total, but I would be looking at the unders, maybe at the alternate totals a little bit later. I think over 1.5 cashes for you, but I'm not paying minus 200 on it. That's the total takedown. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Give me a follow at Die Hard MMA Pod on Twitter. If you haven't already, that's the best place to get a hold of me. Hit that like button for me. I appreciate it very much. Good luck with all your action, and we will see you later on this week.